Hi everyone, so I already announced the giveaway winner for the variegated Monstera giveaway. I just want to thank everyone who entered. There were over 4,000 entries and that's mind-blowing to me. Thank you for all of those who have been following along. I am going to talk about propagating in Leca. I do not always propagate in Leca or semi-hydro. I will sometimes just throw it in some diluted nutrient water like this. I have propagated in Leca and I've had a lot of success with that, so I will go ahead and show you the process today. It's basically the same thing as putting any plant into semi-hydroponics. The only thing that's different is sometimes I will choose to use a closed container like this. For plants that already have an established root system, I will not put it in a closed container like this because it makes the flushing process a lot more difficult. But if you're propagating something, it might be beneficial just so you can see the root progress. It's a clear container, so you'll be able to see the roots actually growing through the Leca. Another method I have this right in front of me. So this heartleaf philodendron, I have cut this back so many times and just stuck it right back into the pot. And in that case, when I do that, my chop and prop, I repot it back into the same pot. This plant has roots in it and I'm putting cuttings back into the pot and then it grows roots from there. You kind of just forget about it. And I like doing this method because it doesn't separate it into a bunch of different vessels. It's the same process. I'm still taking care of it the same way. There's nutrient water and then the nursery pot right here that I can pull in and out, and I can flush it normally. But I do that with plants that I already have pretty good size for. So most of my trailing plants, I just do this chop and prop method. But for this one, this is the Monstera standulana cutting that I got. Here is the original one that came, really sad, and actually didn't perk up until pretty recently. I thought I was gonna lose it, but it had 3 leaves to start with, and then the 3rd leaf actually died off. And then this one had a piece that was like flopping off. I eventually just took it off because it looked like it was dying off anyway. So then I cut it into a leaf shape, hoping to make it look like it's a normal leaf. But I'm so happy that this piece perked up. But then she sent me this other piece that I have an unboxing for, so I'll insert it right now. If you watched a few videos back, you saw that I did a plant trade, and here I just received the redo of that plant trade. It's in a pretty big box. So let's open this. Here it is. Some of this packaging in it. It looks like it was packaged in a salad container or a takeout container. That's a pretty good idea. I don't think I've seen that too much. Here is a moist paper towel. Oh, it's a pretty one. Look at that. This is a variegated Monstera standulana. And it's just wrapped up in a bunch of moist paper towels. So the way that I do it, I normally wrap in sphagnum moss, but moist paper towels will just do because it's only going to be in shipping for a few days unless you're like overseas and you're trying to ship plant mail that way. As long as there's some moisture in it, the plant should be just fine. As you can see from the unboxing, this was connected together, but I just chopped it where I see nodes. Both pieces have nodes on it. Always make sure there's nodes on the pieces or else it's not gonna grow. You just see the node and then you cut right below it. The reason why I did this is because it's a few cuttings, so I want this to eventually turn into a full plant, and that way it's not just gonna be one long vine going up. I'm gonna show you how to propagate this in Leca. Right now it's just in diluted nutrient water. So now I'm over at the sink and I can actually show you both methods of what I'm talking about. So I have the plant right here and I can show you the method of putting it into a closed container first. I don't like to grow plants in a closed container like this unless I am propagating. It works just fine when propagating, but if you are gonna grow your plant semi-hydro and like leave it in here after it already has an established root system, it is really hard to control the algae, and also just to flush it in general is kind of a nightmare because you're gonna have the Leca balls surrounding it, and to flush it is just hard. But in order to propagate, leaving it in here is just fine, and you have the option of just plain water or diluted nutrient water, which is what I like to do because it makes the plant grow faster in my opinion. I already have Leca in here, so I'm gonna show you this method first. I'm just rinsing the Leca. If you see my videos before, you know that I just rinse the Leca and I don't soak it. But if you want to soak it, you can. I already have the cutting because this was sent to me. But if I were to show you how to propagate, you just cut below the node. You can really use anything to put the propagation in as long as it holds water. So here is just the cup. I have the Leca that I just rinsed. And I'm just putting some in the bottom. Put the plant in. And you secure it with one hand how you want it to look, and then you put more Leca around it. Just shake a little bit to make sure the leca falls into place. Just make sure that the leca is actually covering the nodes, otherwise it's not going to grow any roots. The leca is right here, so I want the water level to be around the 1/3 area. I would be using nutrient water, but I'm just showing you this method first, so I am just using plain water, which is also fine because it's just a propagation. The water level is right here. The way that this works is the water level is all the way down here. And even if the nodes are a little bit higher than that, it's gonna wake it up. Again, I showed you just plain water because I'm not gonna keep it like this. So now I'm gonna put it in the method that I am gonna keep it in. So in this case, I will actually use the nutrient water that I have. The benefit of using a closed container when you're propagating is that you'll be able to see the root growth, but as long as the plant looks fine, I don't feel the need to keep pulling it out and looking at it. Here is the nursery pot method with the cash pot. This is a Crazy Plant Guy pot that I won from Sharina's giveaway a while back. This one has a drainage hole, right? And I don't need a drainage hole when it comes to semi-hydroponics. If you have watched one of my videos, the planters I use in semi-hydroponics, here is one of the methods I use. Make sure your bag doesn't have holes in it. This is just a sandwich bag. I'm just gonna put it inside, and that's gonna hold my nutrient water. And this method actually has not failed me yet, surprisingly. It's just lining the inside like that, and then it'll hold the nutrient water so it won't go through the drainage hole. Oh no, oh no. See, the bright side of working with Leca when you are clumsy is that you can just pick these up when they fly everywhere, but then with soil, that is just a bigger mess to clean. This is gonna hold my nutrient water, and then I have this nursery pot that goes in it, just as I would when I'm taking care of plants normally in semi-hydroponics. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have an entire playlist that explains everything that you need to know about taking care of plants in semi-hydro. This is just a plain nursery pot that one of my plants came in, and I made sure to clean it out so there's nothing in there. There's no leftover dirt or anything. I have the pot here with the sandwich bag inside, and the Leca I just showed you earlier. I'm gonna put a layer in the bottom. It's like maybe an inch, but I am not precise. Same method. Take the plant, put it in the position that you want it to be in. Okay, and here's the rest of the Leca I'm gonna use. I'm just pouring it in. So I have it all potted up here, and I have my nutrient water. So my nutrient water now has more nutrients than when I first started with. When I first did my semi-hydroponics nutrient and pH video that I'll link at the top, I was using diluted nutrients that basically was used for cutting. If you're in that process of that semi-hydro journey, you can just use those nutrients. This has a little bit more nutrients at this point, so I'm just gonna dilute it. I want the water level to be around here. So I'm gonna put half of it to be the nutrient water I just showed you that I already have mixed, and then the other half of it will be just plain water. So that will make up the amount of nutrients that will be in my reservoir. When I mix the nutrients, I mixed this last week. It can keep in here just fine. Just make sure you're not leaving it out in the sun or anything. I just keep it in basically a dark basket. Just gonna pour some in. If you want to do plain water, that's fine. If you want to do just water and super thrive, that's fine too. And then diluted nutrients is just my method. So this whole process is all about experimenting. There's no just one way to do it, because then you can always find out what works best for you and your plants. Then I just stick the nursery pot in here. That's it. So that was the entire method that I use. Right now it obviously has no roots because it's just a cutting, but when the plant starts to grow roots, it will eventually grow roots down into the reservoir, and my plants have not had any root rot from that. The roots are just bound to grow into the reservoir eventually. And in that case, sometimes I will leave it for a couple weeks depending on if I have the time to actually deal with it. If not, leaving it in there, I have not had any root rot. The plant is used to being in water at that point if you have been growing it that way. So it's just eventually gonna keep growing down into the reservoir. You can't really do anything about that. That's just the way that roots grow. I would not worry if the roots start to dip into the water. If you want, you can just pull the plant up a little bit and make sure that it's not sticking out the nursery pot. I have just chopped it down before when I don't want to take an entire plant out, or you can just take it out and chop the roots down and stick it back in. Those are just the methods that I have done. And I feel like for every one of these videos, I should have a disclaimer. I am not a plant expert. This is just the way that I grow all of my plants, and it has worked for me. Next, I can show you what I mean by topping off all of my plants, because I did my flush day for all of my plants last week. So if the water level has gone down, I'm just filling it back up with water. In my video, I said pH adjusted water, and that is probably the best way to go to make sure your pH doesn't climb up too far. Yeah, I can go ahead and show you what I mean by this. So let's see if I can do this one-handed. In here, oh, see, this is what I mean, by the way, when the roots are gonna grow down into the water reservoir no matter what. That's the way that roots grow. I'm not worried about that turning into root rot. I will deal with that at a later time. You can see that the water level has gone down. In here is the nutrient water that I put in last week. So I estimate the 1/3 level I want the water at. So here, pH adjusted water. Sometimes I even use plain water. When I say pH adjusted, you do it to the same pH adjustment as the nutrients, because you want it to be the same. So 5.5. I'm just going to pour this over the top, and then you can check again if you, but if you've been doing it for a long time, you kind of just know. So that's a good water level, and I'm just going to leave it like that. And then I go through all of my plants. I'm just going to go through and make sure that the water level is good for all of them. Just like in soil, a plant that is in a smaller pot is going to need to be watered more often probably, and also depending on sunlight, of course. Most of my plants are in the same location by this window, so something like this that is in a 4-inch pot is going to dry up a lot faster than something that is in a 6 to 8-inch pot. Because of that, I make sure to check on the smaller pots more often. I hope this video helped you out. Thanks for watching. Bye!